In old news, it's raining in London today. Today, I'd like to talk about some things that I've been enjoying that are not books. Some things that I've been watching, some things that I've collected, events. To start off, let's talk about some shows. My boyfriend and I marathon a lot of Netflix when we're together. One of the shows that we marathoned recently was Dark. Dark is basically German Stranger Things. I first heard about it from Jen Campbell, who was singing praises for this show. So when Jen Campbell said German Stranger Things, I was like, well, I like Stranger Things, and I'm always trying to watch German things, so why not? So the show on its outset seems very Stranger Things-like. It's set in a small town right next to a nuclear power plant, and the story surrounds these teenagers and their families who reside in this small town. Then strange things start happening in the town. Kids go missing, birds start falling from the sky, and that sparks this big mystery that unfolds through the series. So in terms of the Stranger Things comparison, Dark is much darker than Stranger Things. I found the story much more intricate and complex, but it didn't have as much fun as Stranger Things did. And because there wasn't as much humor, I didn't have as much fun watching the series. I loved watching the mechanics of the mystery unfold, but overall, because there wasn't as much fun in it, there weren't as many moments of relief like there are in Stranger Things. Also, each season of Stranger Things takes you on a story arc which kind of brings itself to a certain completion at the end of each season, whereas every episode of Dark sort of answers one question but then raises 5 more questions. It was around episode 8 that my boyfriend and I were like, wait, it's almost the end of the season and we haven't solved all these other things. And then the finale happened and we're like, oh, we're supposed to watch the next season to figure out all these other plot threads. So overall, it was a really fun mystery, but I don't think it gave us the sort of payoff that you expect at the end of a season, because I feel like at the end of a season you should at least have some sort of plot payoff even if you don't answer every question. So the season basically took us to this crescendo in the plot, but then never really took us to any sort of ending. I still highly recommend watching it if you're really into time travel stuff and sci-fi. Also, don't watch it dubbed, just watch it in German with subtitles. So that was Dark. The next show that my boyfriend and I watched was Altered Carbon. It basically takes place in this universe where everyone's consciousness is downloaded to a device implanted in their spine called a stack. So when your body dies, your stack is simply implanted into another body. Bodies are just called sleeves in this world. And essentially you can live forever if you wanted to. But of course, it's not quite as simple as that as you get to know the world. Because if your stack transfers to between too many sleeves, you can begin to go crazy. And in this universe, many rich people have circumvented this problem by cloning their bodies. So whenever their bodies die, they can just go from essentially the same sleeve and never have to deal with the problem of insanity. Whereas if you don't have that kind of money and resources, then you just get whatever sleeve gets thrown your way when you die. So our main character is Takeshi Kovacs. So he used to be part of a rebel organization called the Envoys, and he was eventually caught and put in prison. But then he's suddenly released after 200 years of imprisonment, and then he's ordered to solve the sleeve murder of a really, really rich and powerful person. We encounter these different characters, like this really amazing AI who runs a hotel. Altered Carbon was also based on a novel by the same name, and I really want to read that now. I did see Black Panther in theaters, which, like, I don't think you need me to say that it was a good movie. Everyone and their mom is talking about it. It really is a good movie. Everyone just looks so good, and you got to see a lot of really distinguishing features of indigenous African cultures. So Chadwick Boseman plays Black Panther, and he was on Trevor Noah's Daily Show, and he noted how everyone in the movie has a slightly different African accent. Like, one person has a kind of more Nigerian accent, and someone else has a more Kenyan accent. Chadwick Boseman sort of imitated Mandela a bit in his speech patterns. And in a sense, there's a little bit of African representation in a lot of aspects of this movie, but in a really nice, inclusive way that's not cliched. There were characters wearing lip plugs. I mean, how often do you see that shown off in a movie? My boyfriend and I were discussing it afterwards, and I think the one problem we did have with the movie was that substance vibranium, it seems a little bit overused in this movie as this material that can do anything. It's like, you can make trains with it, you can heal people with it, and you can make suits out of it. We're not sure where they're going with vibranium and the concept in the Marvel universe, but that seems like a little bit of a cop-out to us. But overall, highly recommend Black Panther. In terms of music, I've been listening a lot to the Hamilton soundtrack lately. I feel like everyone has been listening to the Hamilton soundtrack. I was really late to the Hamilton wagon. Basically, I was on the lookout for really good music to listen to while I work. I found that the Hamilton soundtrack is just really good for me working, just especially now as a grad student and wanting to really not mess things up and wanting everything to be perfect. The spirit of Hamilton, the instinct to just work really hard and not throw away your shot, that just really resonates with me. So I've been listening a lot to My Shot, obviously. I also love the song Wait For It. Non-Stop is also a song that I really love. It's like everyone's asking Hamilton, why don't you take a break? Why do you write like you have no time? And he's just like working like crazy, and it just really resonated with me because I was just like, oh my god, I'm writing all these papers and working on these assignments like I have no time. So yeah, really been enjoying Hamilton. I have another really random music favorite. So during the Super Bowl, they released a new trailer for the next season of Westworld. And in the trailer, Ramin Djawadi covered Kanye West's Runaway on piano. They put it out on Spotify and on iTunes, and I was just like, oh, I really love this piano piece. I need to listen to it. So Ramin Djawadi is famous for the Game of Thrones theme, but he also arranged a lot of the music for Westworld. But I love his piano cover of Kanye West. I've also been really enjoying Taylor Swift's Reputation. 1989 was okay, but I only listened to like 4 songs off of that album. But Reputation, I love like most of the songs. I've also been listening to a lot of Brandon Flowers. Brandon Flowers is the singer of The Killers, but he did a lot of solo stuff, so I've been listening to a lot of his solo stuff. I think my favorite song of his is Only the Young. There's also a lot of YouTube things that I've been enjoying. I discovered 2 new channels lately. The first one is Just Right. So that channel talks a lot about screenwriting, writing structure, writing problems in different movies. One of the videos I really enjoy is how J.K. Rowling writes mystery. There's another video that talks about how Black Panther fixes a lot of Marvel's flaws. I'll link those videos down below. He also did a 5-video series on why the Hobbit trilogy sucks, which, oh my god, those movies really suck. Another channel I discovered recently was Hello Future Me. I stumbled upon this channel pretty much by accident. There's this video that he put out called How to Kill Your Main Character, and how shows like Game of Thrones and Vikings dealt with killing off their own protagonists. And I was like, wow, this channel's really interesting. And apparently he's done a whole bunch of amazing writing videos, like how to write final battles, how to write hard and soft magic systems. He's also done a lot of videos on Tolkien mythology, like the history of Andúril, which is Aragorn's sword, and also how the ring wraiths came about. He also does other videos about like Avatar. I'm not really familiar with those fandoms, but if you like that fandom, I highly suggest this YouTuber. I will also link him below. Also, there's a YouTuber called Comic Book Girl 19 whom I've been watching for years. And lately she has been doing something called Watchmen Book Club. And basically every week she's been streaming on Twitch and reading different issues of Watchmen and analyzing them. She did this last summer with Dune. She read a segment of Dune each week and analyzed it and did a Q&A session. And her discussions and analyses added a whole new dimension to my reading of Dune. And same for Watchmen Club. I read Watchmen as a teenager. It's one of my favorite books of all time. But I didn't read anything into the symbology of the novel. I didn't really analyze the art or anything or how it's laid out. Comic Book Girl 19 has really just changed my entire outlook on Watchmen and how I look at the mystical imagery within. And she's also changing the way I look at the characters as well. Alan Moore is hugely into mysticism, and Comic Book Girl 19, she's also hugely into magic, and she more readily sees that and absorbs that. And so having that perspective on Alan Moore's work really has changed my outlook on Alan Moore's work. So if you like Watchmen, if you've been considering rereading Watchmen, totally follow her Watchmen Club. It streams on Twitch every week, or you can subscribe to her channel. She releases the streams as YouTube videos on her channel. Comic Book Girl 19 has been one of my favorite YouTubers for years. I think it's an absolute travesty that she doesn't have more subscribers. She did these amazing videos about Game of Thrones and Game of Thrones history. She would also analyze the episodes. Back when the show was good, the show has really, you know, taken a downturn. She's also been really bummed out about the show, which I totally feel that. Subscribe to Comic Book Girl 19. Also, some miscellaneous items. So my boyfriend got me this black teapot for Christmas. I don't know why I'm always so oblivious when friends of mine ask me for information or probe me for information for presents. My boyfriend was like, oh, you don't have a teapot of your own, do you? I was like, yeah, no. He buys me a teapot. It's like the cutest thing. Also, this is like worth 2 cups of tea. Basically, the mileage of every tea bag is twice what it was when I use it in a teapot. Also, it's just a great excuse to buy a lot of loose teas now. Also, my boyfriend and I were in Camden Market and I got this Miyazaki art mug. It's got all these characters from Miyazaki films on it. I forget who the artist is, but if I remember, I will link below. I went to the Harry Potter History of Magic exhibit at the British Library. I went literally the day before it closed. The exhibit focused a lot on the sort of historical background and background lore behind a lot of the magical elements of Harry Potter, herbology lore, potions lore. It featured a lot of original paintings from Jim Kay of different characters from Harry Potter. It's a really amazing exhibit. So when I was there, I picked up a few items. I picked up this enamel pin. It's got a palmistry symbol on it. Also, I picked up this bookmark and also this necklace of Hermione's wand. From a distance, it sort of looks like I'm wearing an ice pick, but I know it's a wand. So anyway, those are some non-bookish things I've been enjoying. So let me know down below any things that you've been enjoying lately. You can follow me on Twitter and Goodreads as well, and I'll see you with another bookish video later.